Welcome to Connects Conference 2021 Day 2, brought to you by Huawei.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us at this next episode in the 2021 Connects Conference. It's a phenomenal, exciting morning for me because we get to welcome Matthew Edwards, many of whom you will know, and he's going to share a little bit of information with us on the tower market in Africa. Matt is the product director for Tower Exchange, responsible for the development and delivery of Tower Exchange's global calendar of meetups. He's also responsible for Tower Exchange's research and editorial for Africa. So there's not a lot that he does not know about the tower market in Africa. He's got a decade's worth of experience in organizing events and doing research on the topic. And he covers diverse topics such as telecoms, infrastructure, and cybersecurity, as well as nuclear energy, before joining Tower Exchange in 2019. He now manages, in addition to everything else, the Layer 123 brand at Euromoney, covering software-defined networks and network virtualization as well. Matthew is based in London, in UK, and our relationship with Tower Exchange is a really special one for us. The Digital Council, for us, all things tower related. This is our port of call. We go to Tower Exchange. We're about to release our annual research, and in that you will see a lot of the information that is quoted around the tower market is that information that is publicly available, but which we utilize in our annual report as well, as we delve at a high level into the tower market. Naturally, the Tower Exchange information is a lot more granular. Their own information is a lot more granular, and you're welcome to reach out to Matt if you want their more detailed report. The information that you will see from the Digital Council Africa is not intended to really be that. We just want to give you a high-level focus of all these markets. Their information will, provide you a lot more detail. So please reach out for Matt if you are interested in understanding a little bit more about their research and what information they can provide you through that. But Matt, yeah, it's a real pleasure to have you with us today. And thank you for joining us. I know that we're all incredibly busy, and I know that you've got meetups globally and around the world, and I know that you guys spend a lot of time inside fuselages. So I'm really grateful that you can spend a bit of time with us this morning, just running through the tower market and giving us a bit of an update on how it's seen from a Tower Exchange point of view.
Yeah, I'm delighted to be here. Thank you so much for providing this platform. Just going to throw out some slides, and then I'll run through some of the research we've been doing on the telecom tower world. So as Vanita so nicely introduced me, I'm Matt Edwards, Product Director for Tower Exchange. And I'd like to just take some time to run through some of our research for you now. So what are towercos? A useful place to start. There's a few different ways that towers are owned around the world. Originally owned by mobile networks. From the 90s onwards, they started to be sold to towercos, and now in many markets, towercos own the majority of sites. So in the United States, towercos are majority owners of sites, and you can see the model spreading internationally as well. If you look to places like Europe, you can see mobile network owned or joint venture infracos expanding, but you see independent towercos growing as well. And same in sub-Saharan Africa, you see an increasing proportion of sites managed by towercos, which is now bleeding into areas like the Middle East and North Africa, where the towerco model is taking shape as well. Who are Tower Exchange? So we are a networking club, reference guide for the tower industry. So we produce editorial, we produce analysis, we produce newsletters and journals. We produce a league table of who owns what. as well as various sort of regional guides that will help you understand what's happening where in the telecom tower world. We have meetups all through the year. So our Asia meetup is the next one coming up. That's in December. It's going to be fully virtual. Then we're going to be back in Dubai in March, in London in May for our Meetup Europe, back in Florida for our Meetup Americas, and then I'm really hoping to be in Johannesburg next October. Not long ago, South Africa came off the UK's red list, and I think international travel should get easier from here on in, and we really want to get back into Africa and run events there again. So really looking forward to that. So Tower Exchange tracks and monitors towers all across the world, and within Africa, or sub-Saharan Africa, I should say, so leaving out North Africa, we believe there's around 160,000 towers, and TowerCos manage 43% of those towers. You can see here, broken down into 5 of the largest TowerCos, just who owns what. I think there were, to do a little history, a few years ago there were 4 large towercos: IHS Towers, American Tower, Helios Towers, and Eaton Towers. American Towers acquired Eaton Towers a couple of years back, leaving just a big 3. And for a little while, that was how the industry stood. You had IHS Towers with a very, very large number of sites, about 15,500 in Nigeria, as well as 4 other African markets. You had American Tower with substantial portfolios in a number of markets, and you had Helios Towers, which had its 5 markets, but are starting to turn to look towards more M&A and expansion. What we've started to see, starting last year, is the introduction of new towercos, the opening up of new markets, and a general kind of mixing up of sort of business as usual. So I'm going to talk about some of the key players in the industry during this presentation, but I'm also going to share some details on some of the newer guys. So one of the big moves this year was Helios Towers' acquisition of 1,200 sites in Senegal. That was one of the latest major pieces of M&A tower acquisitions that we've seen in quite some time. That was followed shortly on by a deal announced by Helios Towers to acquire sites in Madagascar, Malawi, Chad, and Gabon from Airtel, which is really one of the that's really sort of the last major portion of Airtel's sites. So very good to see that the industry has still got momentum. We've also seen the entrance of another towerco, SBA Communications. Now these guys have been active in South Africa since 2015 under the brand Atlas Tower. And as of the 1st of October, Atlas Tower South Africa was rebranded SBA South Africa. But they also acquired some sites, or are in the process of acquiring some sites in Tanzania from Airtel. They're doing that in partnership with a joint venture partner called Paradigm Infrastructure that I'll talk about later. But you can see someone that is active predominantly in the Americas, like SBA Communication, now coming in and building a substantial nearly 3,000 site portfolio in Africa, and I would expect to see that to grow as well. I think that's a testament to the potential that many of us here see in Africa, new investment coming in to chase that growth and to generate that growth. There's also one smaller towerco there. You can see a sort of rainbow of countries that they're active in, Africa Mobile Networks. They are a deep rural connectivity specialist. Their model is slightly different to a traditional towerco. A traditional towerco will charge a fixed monthly rent or power charge as well in certain markets. Whereas Africa Mobile Networks operate on a revenue share model. African Mobile Networks are also the providers of a network. So we'll talk about their business model in a bit more detail later, but they're doing something really interesting and pushing into more rural areas and allowing mobile network operators to serve new customers. So here on the slide, you can see just the general breakdown. And although the color guide is a little bit difficult because we're covering nearly 20 countries here, you can pick it out later if you want to pause it and have a look. Here is the tower counts in the markets which we cover. We don't collect sort of formal counts for all 54 odd markets across Africa. We restrict ourselves to around about 25, where there is more activity. The largest market here is Nigeria, with nearly 33,000 sites, and that is still growing. You're seeing thousands of sites added annually in that market because there is such a demand for connectivity, both in urban areas where 4G is developing and rolling out, and lots of networks are overlaying that on their existing 3G, 2G network. And you're also seeing new sites pushing out on the network's edge and in deep rural areas to provide 2G, 3G coverage to places that have never had it before. South Africa is the next largest market, with around about 26,000 sites. The big news in South Africa is that the whole market there is in flux. You have MTN, Vodacom, Gyro Group, and Cell C. Telkom and Cell C as the mobile network operators there. MTN, Vodacom, and Telkom's TowerCo Gyro Group, you're seeing changes in the industry structure. MTN are planning to sell their towers, and we're hoping to see that transaction happen any day now. You have Vodacom looking to carve out their towers and create their own TowerCo that they can then go out and manage themselves. And you have Gyro Group, so those are the 6,000 plus sites owned by Telkom. Some of those are being carved out and made public in an IPO. So you have all these different structures going on in South Africa, a really kind of dynamic market. There are some things holding back the South African market. There's a lack of spectrum, and that is holding back the amount of towers demanded and the amount of customers that can be served and all the rest of that. I'm hoping that in the early part of next year we can resolve the spectrum issues and get things moving again. Through the rest of the market, we are seeing sort of steady growth in several markets. Kenya's added about 1,000 sites over the last couple of years. Tanzania is seeing continued growth, as is Ghana. Ethiopia has just had its market liberalization process continuing, and we are hoping that will result in a spurt in telecom towers. It needs another 12,000 or so in the next few decade, probably 5,000 in the next few years, just to meet coverage obligations for the mobile network operators there. Very exciting time, but a very difficult place to work. Moving on, I'd like to take a moment, so I'm just going to have going to talk about what's happening with various organizations that make up the tower market here in Africa. IHS Towers, the largest TowerCo in Africa, also active in other markets in the Middle East and South America as well, which I'll talk about, is registered to IPO in New York. Been active since 2001, started as tower builders, but soon moved into the tower building and leasing and owning business. Owned quite a large stake by MTN, but with some of the founders retaining a stake, as well as investors like Goldman Sachs and Wendell, and backing from various DFI. They are looking to go public, partially so MTN can realize its investment, and also so those DFIs can start recycling their very successful investment into other projects. They're targeting a valuation above $7 billion. I think it could go far above that. It's a very valuable and effective business. And they've recently turned to profit this last half year. Towercos are very capital intensive businesses, so you spend a long time buying towers, investing in the steel, investing in the power systems, and so it's very good to see IHS moving from that heavy investment phase to profitability, and of course on an EBITDA basis, so discounting some of that debt and interest and depreciation and amortization, they're running at a very healthy 64% margin. Critical to a towerco is your co-location rate. So this is the number of tenants per tower. The real benefit of the towerco model is that you can take at one tower that is a cost center for a mobile network operator and turn it into a revenue generating asset for a towerco by independently managing it. So what this 1.51 times tenancy ratio co-location rate means is that their 30,000 towers serve about 45,000 tenants, which means there's 15,000 fewer towers than there would be under a single tenant model, which is a huge improvement in efficiency for the industry. They've been on a spurt of deal making. In January, they acquired another 1,000 sites in Brazil. They've also started a business as a FiberCo in Brazil. In April, they acquired some sites in Rwanda, and in March, April too, they acquired some sites in Brazil and Colombia to add to some sites that they acquired last year in Peru. And by the year's end, they are hoping to enter Egypt as well. They have a license, or they are planning to sign for a license and to get incorporated there by the end of the year with an agreement with the ministry, and they're hoping to build thousands of sites over the next few years. American Tower, next largest towerco active in Africa, built 1,000 sites in Nigeria between Q2 2020 and Q2 2021, latest figures we have. Also in the same period built 1,000 sites in their 6 other African markets. So really building new sites, expanding networks, and investing in Africa. They've also done a huge amount to invest in renewables, $250 million US over the last few years in things like solar panels, batteries, improved rectifiers, improved control systems, and really making sure that they are reducing their emissions and improving the reliability of those sites. A couple of other things they're doing. They've recently signed a deal with Polarium to onshore battery production in South Africa. That's going to enable Polarium to take advantage of the free trade agreements within Africa and reduce the cost of quality batteries for the continent. It's also enabling American Tower to help generate improved economic development throughout its markets, which is really what its thesis on investing in Africa is all about. It's a growth market. Things are improving, and they want to play a part in riding that wave and generating that wave. Another thing they are looking at and working on are digital communities. Now, an American Tower in a community somewhere in Africa will have reliable power, reliable connectivity, and it may be the only reliable power in tens or possibly hundreds of miles. And what they have started doing is installing shipping containers kitted out with an IT suite, and using local partners to run things like IT literacy courses, various educational initiatives, empowering women, improving literacy, and they are looking to expand that at the moment. They've got a couple of hundred in Africa and India, and they'd like to expand that further. Helios Towers, currently number 3, with around about 8,000 towers, but should expand to about 14,000 once their current deals with Airtel and Omantel close. As I mentioned earlier, they recently closed a deal for 1,200 sites in Senegal, but they have plans to expand. So the countries there in green are their current markets. You have a transaction in the Middle East in Oman in the top right there, and then you have 4 markets: Chad, Gabon, Malawi, and Madagascar, where they're planning to acquire about 2,500 new towers. There's also some change at the top. So Kash Pandya has been with Helios Towers for some time and has been responsible for this latest round of expansion and also for a big round of investment and efficiency improvements across their site. He'll be stepping down at the AGM in April, and the old CFO, current COO, Tom Greenwood, will be stepping up. So some change at the top of Helios Towers there, but we're not expecting a big change in strategy or direction. It is a job well done by Kash and time to move on to the next generation in towers. SBA Communications, as I said before, recently rebranded their South African operation as SBA South Africa, but they've also gone into Tanzania, and they've done this with partners, Paradigm Infrastructure, with a deal to acquire 1,400 sites from Airtel. Also believe they're linked to the MTN tower sale in South Africa, although nothing's been announced there yet. We would be very interested to see who ends up managing those sites. They have been acquisitive all across the Americas, and we're really curious to see what happens next. Ones to watch. So those were the sort of old guard, I'd say, in the tower world. There's lots of stuff happening with newer people as well. So you have the Axian Group, Madagascar-based originally. They own Telma there and also have some Indian Ocean markets as well. A couple of years ago, acquired a mobile operator in Senegal and then signed a sale of those towers with Helios Towers there. They've also moved into Tigo, so into Tanzania by acquiring the Tigo brand there. They've applied for a license in Ethiopia. They didn't win that license, but I think it shows ambition. They also have their own TowerCo. So on Madagascar, it's known as TowerCo of Madagascar, but they have a broader Pan-African brand, TowerCo of Africa, and there is a tower sale process occurring in Togo. At the moment, the IFC are working with Togocell, which is owned by Axian Group, and so it may be that we see Axian Group expand their TowerCo operations into Togo, or someone else take those towers. But it shows that they have a strategy for expansion, and they have ambitions to do more. Paradigm Infrastructure, mentioned these guys earlier in connection to SBA. Paradigm Infrastructure's first venture into a sort of emerging markets was with SBA as a junior partner in Tanzania. It is Paradigm Infrastructure that's sort of leading the implementation of that, even if they're the junior partner in the joint venture, because they have the experience of operating in these markets. Steve Harris, Stephen Marshall, Hal Hex, all ex-American Tower, EMEA or global people, have experience signing deals and closing deals and setting up companies in Africa, where SBA has been able to get access in South Africa. South Africa as a market is more similar to the Americas than somewhere like Tanzania, where you have difficulty with power, you have poorer infrastructure. So going in as a joint venture with Paradigm, leading the operations is enabling that expansion. They're also looking at other emerging market opportunities in Africa and elsewhere, going in as a build-to-suit player, so building towers that mobile operators want. Or through acquisitions as well. They hired IHS Towers' Gordon Porter to head up the Tanzania OpCo to begin with, but eventually the Tanzania operation should be, vast majority local staff. Generally, what you see with TowerCos in Africa is the setup team often includes a couple of expats, but then it very quickly ends up being locals that are employed. East Castle Infrastructure. So as I mentioned Eaton Towers earlier, this is a callback to then. So Eaton Towers was acquired by American Tower, but the team behind there haven't gone away. So Peter and Pankaj have co-founded East Castle Infrastructure as a built-to-suit player. So someone who is going to come in not buying big suites of towers, but going into a market, working with the mobile operators and building sites. They have a very, very credible team behind them, and they've done it before. And so they're backed by about $130 million of capital, which is more than enough to get their first 1,000 sites going. And they're beginning in the DRC, Cote d'Ivoire, and Nigeria. So these are markets that are sort of critical to Helios Towers, IHS, and American Tower. So they're definitely not scared to compete with the big boys of the industry. Also want to mention rural connectivity. You've seen Africa Mobile Networks go in and build nearly 2,000 sites over the last couple of years across 10 different markets. They recently just got sites active in Sudan as well, so they are going into difficult areas, and you can see something that be familiar to many of you. You know, there is poor infrastructure in lots of places, and you need to deliver equipment. You've also got organisations like NewRAN signing deals in Cameroon and DRC. NewRAN has got some sites live in Cameroon now. You also have organisations like IHS Towers, iEngineering, various other players, Pan-African Towers in Nigeria too, moving into the rural, deep rural space. And I'll emphasise again, the difference here is that whereas a TowerCo will be just offering a tower and power solution, these guys are going in and offering the full turnkey solution. So there'll be a tower there'll be a solar panel and a battery and their own radio. And so they're really stripping back all of the costs of the mobile operator and going in and moving these towers out. So 2G, 3G solutions, very, very low power, but they're not really compromising on quality. They are having to, nobody wants to provide a sort of second rate service. If you are a mobile operator and you go into a village and you provide a bad service, you know, people from that village are going to move to the city and then they're not going to work with you because they know that your network is bad. So it has to be good everywhere. And finally, South Africa, I mentioned this already, so I won't go into great detail. Another 12,000 or so sites over the next 10 years required. You have different strategies at the different TowerCos. So you have Jaro Group going public with their towers, MTN looking to sell their towers, and Vodacom looking at a potential carve out. And yes, I've stolen my own thunder by talking about all of this earlier. But yeah, spectrum is a big issue, and I really hope the regulators are able to release some of that or auction some of that to the mobile network operators. So this is us. This is Tower Exchange. That's been a introduction to what is going on in the market and what's happening at the major players. If you are interested in the telecom tower world, I'd say in Africa, those are the people that you want to be following, and you want to be signing up for Tower Exchange or attending one of our meetups. So thank you very much for listening. I hope that was informative and useful. And as Juanita said, very welcome for you to get in contact with me at the show or after the show, and we can discuss in more detail.
Thanks, Matt. Yeah, we will certainly be posting your contact details online. So that people can. When is the next one in Africa? October 2022.
That'll be the next time we're in Africa. Yes, I'm much more hopeful that we will be back in Africa.
Me too. Well, we've made it off the red list, so now it's just a stay off the red list. So it's
Exactly.
two different things. Matt, I just wanted to ask you one question before I let you go, and it's really about, and I don't know if this is an area of expertise or if you understand this, but it's really around the real estate investment trust or the REITs, you know, that some of the TowerCos function in. Have you seen any changes in the REIT structures or more TowerCos exploring opportunities within REITs, or has it predominantly stayed the same?
I wouldn't say that was the main change that I'd seen. No, so American Towers formed as a REIT, and that suits their structure very well. But I've not seen any sort of structural change, I'd say, in how that form is used through the industry recently. No.
Okay, that's interesting. I'm just asking because there's been a bit of a conversation around it and trying to understand the benefits of it and whether it's, you know, whether there are some something that needs to be considered. But yeah, thanks for a very, very interesting session.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Okay, thanks everyone. Stay tuned for our next session, which will take place in a couple of minutes. Thank you for joining us, and we hope that you've enjoyed the session with us. Goodbye.
Ladies and gentlemen, we trust you enjoyed the session. Thank you to all our sponsors and partners for helping us bring this event to you. Please click on the next link to join the following session.